You're watching YouTube, the cable access of the 21st century. It's Wednesday, it's 4 p.m. where I am, and it's time to talk about movies and answer your questions. Welcome to Dan's World. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Dan's World. This is a weekly live show that we do here on the channel where I tackle some news going on in the world of entertainment, and I take your questions. As always, I'm going to ask the same thing I do every week. How am I looking? How am I sounding? I always like to get a feedback because honestly, from week to week, I never know. We are going to tackle one major story today, and I promise this is not going to be the weekly Warner Brothers Paramount show, and well, unless it is, because more keeps coming out about this potential merger between the two companies and what could be in the future. And something I really wanted to tackle today was the future of streaming at a hypothetical, theoretical, although I think it looks less theoretical with every passing week, combined Warner Brothers and Paramount. So that's what we're going to talk about first of all. And then I'm going to take your questions. If you want to leave your question, you can leave it in the comments. I will definitely be able to get to it. If you want to leave a super chat, any denomination, any amount, it just helps me to flag the questions and definitely know that I have to answer them here on the show. But let's jump into this story. This has been kind of a weird week for Paramount. First of all, starting today, well, more of a weird week for the people that work at Paramount. The layoffs have officially begun at the new Paramount Skydance. Reportedly, 1,000 people are going to be laid off in the very near future, sometime this week. And then 1,000 more people are going to be laid off sometime in the next weeks or months. That is about 10% of Paramount's workforce. Keeping in mind that pre-merger, before they merged with Skydance, Paramount got rid of about 15% of their workforce. So we're looking at about a 25% reduction as far as people working at Paramount/Paramount Skydance. And there was also some news about one of the major stars, one of the big top talents associated with Paramount, Taylor Sheridan, who signed a new deal with NBC Universal, leaving his current deal with Paramount. And reports have said that Paramount never really even pursued or made an offer to keep him. Now, the shows that he is currently doing for Paramount Plus stay on Paramount Plus, but anything new he develops will now be, once this deal takes effect, with presumably NBC Universal, Peacock, etc. And a lot of people are saying, well, I mean, why would you merge with a company and then let one of your top talents go? Some are saying that David Ellison maybe is making the bet that Taylor Sheridan has peaked and that there's not as much value left in the deal. But others are saying, well, right now they need to save as much money as they can, because yes, even though Warner Brothers has reportedly turned down multiple offers from Paramount to buy the company, I think that's just negotiation. I think at this point, if anything, it just makes me think it's more inevitable. There are other people that possibly, I don't know why, what's my camera doing? It's just focusing back and forth. It's never done that before. If there's something my equipment's going to do for the first time, it is going to be something that happens live on the air. So hopefully we can cut down on that. I think it's a negotiation on the part of Warner Brothers. I think, yes, they are turning down offers from other companies. And they are saying, well, that offer is not good enough from Paramount, but they're negotiating. We have yet to hear any other company that is seriously considering buying Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers Discovery says they're up for sale. They're taking offers. Paramount Skydance is the only company thus far that has made serious offers. And another reason why I think that this deal is, if Warner Brothers Discovery is going to sell, why I think it's going to be to Paramount Skydance, is that it appears that the government has a favorite as well. There were reports that appeared, and this is not really surprising given that Larry Ellison is an ally of the president. Some reports appeared saying that Paramount Skydance is the preferred purchaser of Warner Brothers Discovery by the Trump administration. There was an article in the New York Post who quoted a senior Trump administration official who said, quote, "Who owns Warner Brothers Discovery is very important to this administration. The Warner board needs to think very seriously, not just on the price competition, but which player in the suitor pool has been successful getting a deal done." And that points to the Ellisons. I mean, that's just blatant at this point. I mean, that's basically like somebody coming in a protection racket saying like, "Hey, I hear your business is for sale. Of course, you can buy it to anybody. Anybody could buy it. You could sell it to anyone, but just keep in mind who's got your backs. Keep in mind the deal's most likely to get done maybe if you sell it to my buddy over here." I mean, it's old school to me in the media, unquoted senior official, as if it needed to be quoted. I think it's very obvious that this administration is going to favor Warner Brothers Discovery being purchased by Paramount Skydance more than anybody else. And there are regulatory issues that are going to have to be solved, not necessarily with the FCC, but with the Federal Trade Commission, et cetera. And we have seen already that independent government regulatory bodies are not necessarily so independent at the moment. And I've also seen overtures in the press citing other sources saying like, well, they maybe need to decide, which one of these is most likely to get approved. Who knows? Nobody knows who it could be. So I feel like if there's going to be a sale of Warner Brothers Discovery, it's going to be to Paramount Skydance. I went into it last week on the show. I think it is horrible for the entertainment industry, along with a bunch of other industries, because a lot of people, first of all, are going to lose their jobs. 1,000 people this week at Paramount losing their jobs, 1,000 more people losing their jobs after that. And there were already reports about this potential merger that there would be more job losses, but not necessarily as far as executives and creatives. Bloomberg ran a story earlier this week talking about a potential merger between the two studios, saying that if Warner Brothers and Paramount were to merge, that there would be two distinct sets of creative executives, meaning there would be a head of Warner Brothers and a head of Paramount. It wouldn't be necessarily one film studio. They would still operate as two entities under one owner. Reportedly, James Gunn would stay in place as the head of DC Studios. So creatively, you wouldn't have executives losing their jobs. That'd be terrible. But things like marketing, departments that would be redundant, there would be layoffs there. So we're probably talking about thousands of more layoffs that would happen if this went through. But the thing that really grabbed my eye in this Bloomberg report was, again, according to their sources, what David Ellison's preferred plans are when it comes to streaming. So Paramount Skydance wants to keep most of Warner Brothers Discovery intact, meaning they're not going to dismantle the company, even though they'll own both of them. But there was also, as part of this report, an item saying that David Ellison would prefer to merge and would plan to merge the two streaming services, and that he would fold HBO Max into Paramount Plus. Meaning it's not like Disney Plus and Hulu where you still have two different services. HBO Max would just get folded into Paramount Plus, and then the HBO Max brand would go away in favor of the Paramount Plus brand. This is a monumentally stupid idea. Although, to be fair, in the drama of HBO Max/HBO Max, it would be fitting if they finally decided what their branding was going to be and landed on HBO Max, and then like a year later, they got bought and the name went away altogether. First of all, I think it's terrible to reduce competition in streaming, because we're already seeing the prices going up, I think, due to lack of competition and the big streamers understanding that they can charge whatever they want. But it's also stupid because HBO Max consistently is one of the highest rated streaming services. And if you're looking to improve your streaming portfolio, why would you get rid of a brand name and a product that is consistently at the top of the streaming game? CableTV.com has done an annual streaming satisfaction survey every year for the past few years. These were the results of just some of the results of the most recent survey. Overall satisfaction with your streaming service: Max, number one, 84%. Paramount Plus, below all of the other major streamers, ahead of only AMC Plus and Crackle, which I didn't even know was still around. How satisfied are you with your user experience? Max, 84%, number one. Paramount Plus, 10 points lower, 74%, just ahead of Apple TV Plus, Amazon Prime Video, and Hulu. Thinking about your recent interactions with your streaming service, how effective was it meeting your needs? Max 83%, Paramount Plus 72%, only above Crackle, tied with Hulu. So you're not only getting rid of the HBO Max branding, you're also getting rid of a product that people like and that they have liked consistently since it was launched. One of the few streaming services, if you go back and look at the streaming ratings, HBO Max is one of the few streaming services that has had consistent positive customer satisfaction. And yet, in the name of branding, apparently on David Ellison's part, he wants to retire that brand and fold it into Paramount Plus, a less popular product, so that he can enhance the Paramount brand name. This merger hasn't even happened yet, and I pray that it does not. I see no upside on any front from this merger going through, from control of the media to monopolization of the media to consumer choice. Nothing about this merger comes in as a net positive for me. I'm hoping that there will be an Apple or somebody else. If somebody has to buy Warner Brothers, I hope that it's not Paramount Plus or Paramount Skydance. It's looking more and more likely that it is, if not for business reasons, then for regulation and oversight reasons, because it's pretty obvious that this is the deal that the government wants. And if it gets out to potential buyers that this is the only deal that the government may approve, well, then that kind of makes the decision, whether that's legal, whether that's not legal. We're in a world where it doesn't really matter. So this is looking to me, I know that more people said, like, why are you kind of such a doomer on this? Because they keep saying they're rejecting the offers. To me, this is a slow motion car crash. I think this is going to happen. And maybe I'll be surprised when it doesn't happen. But the thing about this is the moves that are being reported already, the plans that David Ellison is making already, I already think it's stupid to buy another studio after you just bought a studio and have done nothing with that studio. Nothing. There's no track record of success with Paramount Skydance. None whatsoever. It's just another major acquisition after a major acquisition with no real plan other than more. We want more. We want to buy more. It's Disney and Fox. I understood. I wasn't a fan of it, but I understood it. This is just this. I think this. You know me. You watch this channel. You know I'm not hyperbolic about much. I think this has the potential to be one of the worst things that has ever happened to the entertainment industry if this goes forward. The camera going out of focus is an example of why. I have no idea why that's happening. It's never happened before, but we're live, so I'm just going to have to roll with it. I think that this has the potential to be one of the worst things that's ever happened in the entertainment industry. And not only is it bad for the industry, if these reported moves come to pass, it also is going to be one of the dumbest things to happen, because this is a stupid move. Putting aside my consumer concerns with combining HBO Max and Paramount, on a business level, it's a dumb decision. You're going to get rid of the product that works instead of folding Paramount Plus into HBO Max inside an interface and a product that people already like. Dumb. But it's not what matters anymore. What I think is smart, or what even Hollywood thinks is smart, that's not what matters anymore. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting story coming out of Paramount Plus. The camera, I don't know what's going on with it. I'm looking at it. The focus is jumping between me and the Jaws poster, which again, like I said, never happened before. But we're going to roll with it. You know what? It's live on the internet. That's just what we do. All right. Let's answer some of your questions. If you have a question that you want me to answer today, then leave it down in the comments below. The rest of the show, it's kind of your show. Sometimes I'll cover 2 or 3 different stories. Today, I really just wanted to talk about what I think is the scariness / stupidity of this potential Paramount Warner Brothers merger. Who knows? Maybe that'll get me blacklisted from something as well going forward, but that's just how it's going to be. Let's take some of your questions, and we will start with Phoenix 9310. Do you think if Paramount buys Warner Brothers Discovery, do you think they'll use a Paramount Plus user interface or HBO Max user interface, considering Paramount Plus is garbage? Again, what I've read is they said they are going to fold it into the Paramount Plus service. Maybe they can take some of the good stuff that works with the HBO Max interface, but I don't give them enough credit to do that. I agree. HBO Max has one of the best interfaces of any streaming service, and Paramount Plus is one of the worst. Reaper4213 says, "Hey Dan, would love to know your 4 favorite Tom Cruise movies: Collateral, Minority Report, War of the Worlds, and Tropic Thunder for me." Oh man, these are always so hard because now I've got to catalog Tom Cruise's movies in my head and name my favorites. So as always, like with Arnold last week, I may forget one like True Lies, which I completely blanked on last week, but just kind of going through it over in my head, I think Collateral has got to be one of them. Collateral is a brilliant movie. My Minority Report, I think, would be up there for me. I love A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men is a great movie, and I'm kind of a sucker for Aaron Sorkin. He's great in Tropic Thunder, but it almost kind of goes to that movie fights argument of just like, it's a movie with Tom Cruise in it, but is it a Tom Cruise movie? It's one of my favorite performances of his, but if we're going to kind of limit it to a movie starring Tom Cruise, I mean, Top Gun is a hard one to ignore. I think that's a really, really good movie. And I'm not just talking about Top Gun Maverick. I'm talking about Top Gun just in general. I mean, man, Mission Impossible Fallout is a really good one too. If we're going to pick a Mission Impossible movie, Mission Impossible Fallout is a super good movie, but I'm going to risk overlooking some stuff, and I'm going to say Collateral, A Few Good Men, Top Gun, and what was the fourth one I said? It's like that old debate clip with Rick Perry. Oops. Whatever the fourth one I said was, that would be my top 4. Collateral, Top Gun, and now I'm just down to 2. Roll it back. You'll find the 4. A Few Good Men, and the fourth one. It's kind of hard to think on your feet sometimes. Bone Crusher 0806 says, "Hi Dan, favorite sports team and sports films?" Well, my favorite sports team is the Florida State Seminoles. Got the sports helmet on my set. I don't really have a favorite pro sports team except for in baseball, the St. Louis Cardinals, because just for regional reasons growing up in Arkansas. So St. Louis Cardinals in baseball, Florida State Seminoles overall. My fantasy team in NFL football, and then I'm not really a big NBA guy, so I'll watch a game here or there, but I'm much more into college sports. The Arkansas Razorbacks, obviously my hometown team or home state team, big fans of mine, or I'm a big fan of them. I don't know if they're fans of mine. Favorite sports films, again, I'm cataloging a whole genre in my head. I mean, it's cliche, but I like Rudy. Rudy, I think, is a good movie. It's cheesy as hell. It's a cheesy movie. I like Happy Gilmore. I'm a fan of the original Happy Gilmore. I think that's one of my favorite comedies from the 90s. Field of Dreams, big fan of Field of Dreams. That one holds up for me. So those are the 3 that I really like off the top of my head. And I'm sure there's more that I'm not thinking of. Kyle Harlow said, "That's a nice movie studio he got there. It would be a shame if something happened to it. Oh, yeah, we're doing old school mafia guys. Hey, oh." It's like a parody of The Sopranos. AL says, "I saw your name in the credits of Shelby Oaks." Yes, I was, along with many other backers. I was in the credits of Shelby Oaks. I saw Mr. Sunday Movies in the credits of Shelby Oaks as well, as a backer. It was nice to see some familiar names from the movie YouTube space that all were like, wanted to sort of nudge Chris along. Little did we know at that time that he would also get Neon and Mike Flanagan on board. Emir Hades says, "What film do you think represents Arkansas best?" That's a tough question because there are, number one, very few films that Arkansas features in. Number two, most of them depicted as, and I've talked about this on the show before, hillbilly land. All it is farms and people that are out to, get your animals and whatnot, Deliverance style. So, what film do I think represents Arkansas best? I don't know. I'd have to go back and look and see exactly which movies have been set in Arkansas. There have been a lot of good movies that are set in Arkansas. But I mean, as far as the one that represents the state best, I'd have to go back. There are so few. I'd have to go back and check that out. Zach Likes Movie says, "Do you think the constant price of raising subscription services is going to start alienating people and maybe even cause a resurgence of physical media? I know that I started building a Blu-ray collection. Well, I think the constant raising of subscription service prices is alienating people, but it is, and I say unfortunately, I know a lot of people justify this. It is unfortunately perhaps fueling a resurgence of physical media, but from what I've read, more than anything else, it is fueling a resurgence of piracy. Of people just saying, well, I was happy to pay these prices when each one of these services was $3, $4, $5 a month. But now that they're all going up to 10, 12, $15 a month, I'm just going to go back to pirating and not paying anybody anything. Uh, if you know me, you know that I am, in most cases, very anti-piracy. The only time that I could ever even consider it to be a viable alternative is if it is a piece of media that has been neglected and is unavailable. So the studio or whatever behind it is not making it available for you to see, because I don't think that media should be lost media. I understand people saying like, well, piracy is our way to fight back against the big conglomerations, the big corporations, the big studios. I understand that viewpoint. It's just hard for me to endorse piracy really in any form. But I would say, yes, it is a resurgence of physical media. And I think that you're seeing the bottom has not completely dropped out of physical media, because there is a bottom there. It's not limitless. There are people that are always going to buy physical media, just not in the numbers they used to. But I think that piracy is something that the constant raising of prices is fueling even more. Freakstomp95 says, do you think censorship will get worse in the future, leaving artists to use Patreon/Fathom to keep their voices free? You'll never sell out? I know, dumb question. FYI, this show helps while I'm working. Oh, I would certainly hope that I would never sell out. I have no plans to sell out. I mean, I don't even know what selling out for me would be, unless it was a case where, somebody said, you've got to say this thing that you don't believe for money, or, to escape some sort of penalty that I would find onerous. I do think censorship is going to get worse before it gets better. I don't think we're in a great place with it right now. And again, I think the way that it's working a lot, especially in the media, is almost kind of like what we were talking about with that story. It's not direct censorship in that somebody's saying you can't say that. It's censorship in a form of saying like, you can say that if you don't want us to look into your company. Oh, sure. Yeah, you can hire that person or you can have that opinion. But then, you just have to be okay with maybe this regulation or regulatory thing not going through. If you're cool with that, then you can say whatever you want. I think that's a form of censorship. It's not direct government censorship or censorship by any other entity, sort of the threat of consequences censorship. Personal question. But I mean, I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And I don't think that I could live with myself if I were to be given a line to toe that I did not believe in. I think that as long as there are platforms for creators to use, if they feel that that's a place where they need to go to speak freely, that's good. I hope those platforms remain there. I have a Patreon page. I do a Q&A there every month for patrons. I did a lot more before I started ramping stuff up on YouTube as we were coming out of COVID. But, for me, I would much rather there still be public forums for people to speak and say what they feel like they want to, without feeling like they're going to get their channel taken away if they say the wrong thing or something that displeases somebody. And again, everyone always says like, well, if you feel that way now, why didn't you feel that way? I'm not. There is a long history of people that have been have had channels and stuff taken away, that even if I disagree with what that person is saying, I would not necessarily and did not necessarily agree with the decision back then to say, well, you don't have the right to say that anymore. We're going to deplatform you. Sometimes I think it is absolutely justified. I do not think that there is an unlimited degree of acceptance when it comes to what people are saying. I think that there are exceptions, hard exceptions, when things become actually detrimental and dangerous. But I think that things have gone too far in the past, but I also don't buy into this equivalence argument that things are exactly the same right now as they were 4 years ago or 10 years ago. I think we're in kind of unprecedented territory. So no, I'm not planning on selling out. If I do, you'll probably be the first to know because you'll notice. Spy Jam says, if Trump administration favors Paramount, why is Zaslav declining the offers? Like I said, I think it's a negotiation. It's haggling, it's bartering. It's Sony or Paramount Skydance offered a certain amount. David Zaslav then publicly said, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're open for sale." The stock shot up and it was more valuable. So then Sony had to come back with another offer for more. And Zaslav then said, "I think we can get more than that." And that's why I think he's doing this thing. It's like, we're taking all suitors. We're taking a bunch of different offers. We're talking to anybody who's interested. I think it's all negotiation. I don't think, honestly, I don't think David Zaslav really cares that much who he sells to. I think he just wants to get the maximum amount of money. But I think that, I think Warner Brothers is declining offers because they want more money and they think that they can get a better offer. And a lot of this is all theater. I think that Paramount Skydance also probably knows what the offer should be for them to buy the company outright or to get this deal done. But I think that you have to do this dance of negotiating, rejection, counter offer, etc., because that's just part of the process. So you can go to your shareholders or you can go to your investors or your backers and say, "Hey, I got a really good deal because we negotiated back and forth," when the price was probably what it was going to be from the beginning. Eddie Johnson says, I've been watching lots of BBC TV. I noticed there's a lot less exposition in their shows than US TV. If this is true, is this true? If so, do you know why? I mean, I haven't watched an extraordinary amount of television from the BBC. I don't want to say that television networks think Americans are dumber, but I think that the BBC traditionally has held their shows to a bit of a higher standard as far as storytelling goes. And I think that they believe that the audience doesn't need an extraordinary amount of exposition. Whereas I think a lot of studio executives, I'm not talking about the American people, I think a lot of studio executives assume that the average American TV watcher is stupid. Just like many of them assume that the average American moviegoer is stupid. And so I think that's the reason why you see so many movie scripts and TV shows with horribly written exposition. It's not necessarily because the people watching the movie are stupid. It's because the executives who are giving notes on the movie think that the people watching the movie are stupid. I don't believe that the people in charge at the BBC and elsewhere in Great Britain and the UK believe that the populace is as stupid as American executives believe that we are stupid. Just my theory. Harbs K says, now I want to know which of those outlets you referenced did not have Sixth Sense categorized as horror, but if it did qualify, would it have been S or A tier for you or even lower? I believe, and I could be wrong, if you're not caught up, I did a tier ranking video for the highest grossing horror movies of all time on the channel earlier this week. And in order to categorize what's horror and what's not horror, because there's always this debate about what counts as a horror movie, I said, okay, I'm going to check IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, Letterboxd, and Metacritic. If 3 out of those 4 sites categorize a movie as horror, it counts. But if 3 out of 4 don't, then it doesn't count. I could be wrong. I believe only 1 or maybe even none of those sites categorize The Sixth Sense as a horror movie, which shocked me because to me it is absolutely a horror film. I don't think there's any question that it is, but it did not meet the standard that I was setting for that video. Would it have been an S tier or an A tier horror movie for me? I don't think I would put it S tier. It's a little like Blair Witch Project. It came out the same year. And also, I think that a lot of the legacy of the movie is wrapped up in the moment, the cultural moment when it was released. But I think it holds up better than the Blair Witch Project does. And I still actually really like the movie. So I'm going to say I probably would have put it on the A tier. I think that would be an A tier horror movie for me because I think it's still really effective. Even if you know the twist, I think it's still really effective. I'm going to try to zoom this in a little bit and see if that helps. Probably not. It'll probably just make it worse. I'm going to do an investigation as to why I can do 15 pre-taped videos and have no technical issues whatsoever. And the second I go live, the camera starts doing weird stuff that it's never done before. Black Bag says, hey, Dan, I watched Rescue 32 a decade ago and still can't figure out what the hell it even was. But on the upside, you're handsome as hell. Well, thank you. And a pretty good comedic actor. So I do revisit it. Rescue 32. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Rescue 32 was a rejected pilot for a comedy thing I used to do called Channel 101, which was created by Rob Schraub and Dan Harmon. I did some stuff for them when I was in Los Angeles. Most of it was behind the scenes. I helped run the show for a few years behind the scenes, but I did co-write and co-star in a couple shows with my roommate Willie. And one of them was called Rescue 32. It was kind of a parody of a CW WB type teen drama that was like about ambulance drivers or something. It's not. It was all meant. The way that Channel 101 worked is you had to make a mini TV show. It could not be 1 second longer than 5 minutes. If it was 5 minutes and 1 second, it was disqualified. So you had to be 5 minutes or less. And it was expected to be like not a skit or a sketch. The point of the show was you're making literally a miniature television show. So each episode tells a story or is part of an arc. And The Lonely Island got their start at Channel 101. Lots of people that have gone on to a great success got their start in Channel 101. Both creators of Rick and Morty, Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland, got their start at Channel 101. So many people have appeared in shows. Paul Walter Hauser was in a Channel 101 show like more than 10 years, probably about 10 years ago, maybe even a little bit more. Randall Park was doing Channel 101 before he broke out and did his stuff. It is kind of nuts, the people that have done shows like that. So I never really achieved the success as far as having a long running show in what they called prime time. So you'd make a 5-minute TV show, you'd watch 10 of them every week. 5 of them would be returning shows from the previous month. 5 would be new shows. And at the end of the night, you would vote for your top 5. And the top 5 vote getters would go on and they'd get to make another episode. So if you were in the top 5, your show was prime time. And you get to go on and keep making shows. And if it failed, it was called a rejected pilot or a failed pilot, actually. So yeah, Rescue 32 was a Channel 101 show that I did many years ago. I haven't watched it in probably a decade either. It's comedy and comedy. I don't know how it ages. I think the show probably is maybe still good. I don't know, but yeah, it was fun. And I did some stuff in front of the camera too. GC America SS says AI is not as scary as Saudi and UAE buying out Hollywood production companies. Agree? That's a big question. I would say that I think that the threat of AI and the threat of media conglomeration under any entity go hand in hand, number one. And number two, I think that they are both potential existential threats to the entertainment industry. That's what I think. Sakaki HDN JJBA Chrono says, "Hi Dan, do you have a favorite fall food or activity?" I like pumpkin pie. I only eat it at Thanksgiving and or Christmas, but I also only eat it in the fall and only on those holidays. I don't go on like September 15th or October 12th and go get a pumpkin pie and dig into it. I'm just a big fan of pumpkin pie in general. And it just says fall to me. So pumpkin pie, like when I think of fall food, pumpkin pie activity, I love going to football games. I get to go to several games a year now here at University of Arkansas. I haven't been to a football game at Tallahassee for Florida State in quite a while, but I just love college football live in the stadium. That's a lot of fun. Zach likes movies, says, follow-up, collecting Blu-rays has never been cheaper. Used copies of some of my favorite films ever for $1, $2, or $3 at pawn shops or thrift stores. I am a big bargain bin diver. So if there's a store, the smaller the better, that has a discount or a used Blu-ray shelf, that's one of my favorite activities. I'll dig in one of those shelves for 15, 20 minutes because you're right. You never know. You might find a bargain at $2, $3, $4, $5. I'd say a good number of my Blu-rays are from pawn shops, thrift shops, etc. Because not so much thrift shops, but I go to like secondhand, used DVDs, used Blu-rays, etc. That secondhand market. I get a lot of mine there too. Mike Gibbons says, I read a Forbes article about the actual budgets to Disney movies. Why do you think they lie about their budgets? What do they gain? I assume you're discussing why Disney would lie about their budgets. And I mean, we've talked about it before. It's a very complex. So when you see a budget number reported in the media, that doesn't necessarily come from Disney. That's not Disney saying this movie costs this much money. That is the entertainment media saying this is how much it costs, according to people that we talk to. That could be an insider at Disney. It could be somebody else, but that's not an official number. So I wouldn't say necessarily that Disney lies about its budgets. There are times where people will have a projected budget for a Disney film or an estimated budget, and then it actually comes through and it's higher. But oftentimes that is before tax credits are taken into consideration. How much a movie costs is both objective in that there is a reality to it, but it can also be subjective as far as, well, what are you counting as how much it costs? You could say a movie only costs X amount of money if you do count this revenue, and if you don't count it, it costs more, or if you do it pre-tax credit, post-tax credit. I don't think that there's somebody at Disney that's sitting around saying like, yes, we're going to feed misinformation and lie about all of our budgets, because ultimately, other than maybe helping the press around a flop or a failure, I don't know what the big upside is. I just think that there's a reported number, and I think the actual numbers are often higher for a number of reasons. Either that source had it wrong, or they're counting it two different ways. But it's also like, I don't think it's just, I think every studio does that. I don't think it's confined just to Disney. I think every single studio does that. Phil Smith says, are there any horror films that didn't meet the criteria for your tier list that you would have in the S tier? I mean, there wasn't a massive amount of movies that I thought would be eligible that weren't eligible. Signs and The Sixth Sense were the two that stuck out the most to me. I don't think I would put either of them in the S tier. I think I'd put them both in the A tier. Yeah, I think I would put both of them in the A tier. I'm trying to think back on movies that were disqualified. I don't think there was one that met the financial qualification but did not meet the genre qualification that I would put as S tier. Not off the top of my head. In Shearer 01, this is a generational question. Turtle Power or Ninja Rap? Both good songs. For me, go Ninja, go Ninja, go. It's got to be Ninja Rap. I mean, that is a singular point in time. That's like a vortex, like a vortex event where everything in the early 90s all met up in one beautiful piece of cinema. If you don't know, Turtle Power is one of the songs from the live action Ninja Turtle movie. I think from the first movie. Ninja Rap is the Vanilla Ice song from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. I think that it would be Ninja Rap for me, but I like Turtle Power as well. Famous says, Disney ended their partnership with the BBC to produce Doctor Who. Do you think the BBC should continue the show without an international partner? I'm not I did watch a lot of old Doctor Who for the Honest Trailer. I'm not really caught up. From what I was reading, the continuation of Doctor Who was largely because they had that deal in place that in conjunction with Disney Plus for distribution in a lot of places around the world and here in the United States especially. And Disney, if you didn't hear about that, they have decided to end that partnership. I think it was a 2-year deal, and it's now ended. Again, I can't speak from a place of expertise in Doctor Who. From what I've read, it seems like perhaps the show might not be in one of its strongest creative periods. Again, that's all secondhand, and I understand, given the casting of the show and everything, that could also be people that have other things that are being taken into consideration. But I think that if the show is struggling, it's not the worst thing in the world to just take maybe 3 or 4 years off. I don't think that people in the UK or in Great Britain are going to lose interest in Doctor Who if it's gone. It's gone away before. So I would say, rather than forcing the issue, if you can't find a partner right now, and if maybe the show needs to take some time to retool itself creatively, maybe just take that time. I don't see a downside to that. But again, caveat, I'm not a Doctor Who expert. I'm not caught up on the show. This is all secondhand knowledge as far as I know. I'm going to take a little drink here. Oh, I'm so sorry for you at home. That could not have sounded good. All right, Ben Stanley, Cinematic Scribbles, member for 6 months. Thank you, Ben. Would K-pop Demon Hunters have been as popular if it went to theaters? I mean, I don't think, a lot of people seem to assume that K-pop Demon Hunters would have made, $400 million domestic and $1 billion globally if it went to theaters, because it's done so well on streaming. I think it actually did well partially because it was on streaming. I think that helped it find its audience quickly. So I think that it would have been an acclaimed movie. I think it would have found an audience. But do I think that it would have been a phenomenon on the scale that it has been on Netflix if it were in theaters? Not necessarily. I think it still would have done well on streaming after the theatrical release, but I'm not in the camp that the movie would have been $1 billion film if it had gone theatrical. I think that streaming played a big part in its success. Ben Zayton says, do you also think Emily Blunt isn't getting her due? She can do drama, comedy, horror, action. She can sing, yet she's somehow mostly missing awards. I think that she is appreciated now by the public. For a while, I thought that generally moviegoers weren't giving her enough credit. But I'd say in the last 4 to 5 years, I think that she is properly credited by the public, but I have always been very impressed by her versatility. She is one of the most versatile performers working today. And I've never seen her, to my knowledge, that I can think of, do anything that I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know if that's in her wheelhouse. She's done action, she's done musical, she's done family, she's done drama, she's done horror. I've never seen Emily Blunt in a movie and said I did not enjoy her in that movie, even if I didn't enjoy the movie. So I think awards wise, yes, I think that she is not getting her due, but I think that the public has kind of realized that she can do a lot. Sean says, I noticed on Letterboxd that you watched all the James Bond movies earlier this year. Is the ranking on the way, or did it get shelved for the moment? It did not get shelved. It is on the way. It's just that it's something that it's written. The video is written. It's just a massive project. So, watching all the James Bond movies is one thing. It took me forever to write it. I mean, it's going to be a long video. I'm talking maybe hour and a half. So then it has been about, well, when do I have time to actually make it and edit it? That was what I did not take that into consideration, and moving this year certainly didn't help. So it is on the way. I would not say it's completely shelved. I'd say it's more kind of on the back burner. But the script's written. Fluffy Pro says, are you planning more tier lists or taking a break? Maybe a Christmas one, but then you'd have to decide which Die Hard counts. I'm waiting to see like the response I've gotten from people that watch the tier list has been very good, but it has not been a particularly popular video of mine. However, my ranking videos overall tend to be kind of slow growers. They have a longer tail. They don't just jump right out of the gate. So I'm going to wait and see how this one does over time, and whether I feel like it's a viable format, if it's something that people want to see me do consistently. Christmas would be tough because we're talking less than 2 months away. And a lot of people, by the way, have made that suggestion. They're like, oh, do a Christmas movie tier list. But there are, I mean, countless Christmas movies. And for me to be able to not only catalog the ones I have seen, but to watch the ones I haven't seen and make the determination, like that is a huge project. And I want to do it right. So I don't know if Christmas necessarily is realistic, but I am waiting to see how this tier list performs and, whether that's something people would want to see me do in the future. J Hart RIC says, what issues do you have with their interface? I assume you mean Paramount Plus. I just don't think that it's very well organized. The search function doesn't always work great for me. I don't really like a lot of the way that their categories. I don't like the way that they're kind of grouped together. I think it can sometimes be hard to find exactly what you're looking for. HBO Max, I just think, is very clean. I think that the front page presentation on HBO Max is a lot cleaner. I think they have better clusters of things that you might like or things that you might be interested in. And overall, I just think it's a better looking interface. I think that Paramount Plus is kind of a much more basic looking interface. I think that HBO Max just is more stylish and looks better. Kind of clunky, I guess. Not as clunky as like Amazon Prime Video. I just don't think that it's a very smooth user experience. Jason Webster says, Dan, do you feel it has been a dearth of screenwriting talent or a case of not hiring the right person for a specific film, or a combination of both? Do I feel I'm guessing you mean for the quality of movies, et cetera, that have been going on right now. I don't think that there's ever a shortage of talent. I think there are always going to be talented screenwriters out there. I think it is executive thinking, where you keep hiring the same people to do these movies, whether they've done a good job or not, because you know them and you have relationships with them and you're buddies with them or whatever. You're more comfortable with them. on a personal level. I think sometimes you do just hire a hot name for a project without deciding whether or not they have a good idea or whether they would be right for that. So I think that's part of it. Yeah, I guess part of it would be kind of cronyism. Part of it would be the sort of, attaching a name before thinking about whether it's the right name. And then sometimes the script just doesn't turn out good, which happens. But I don't think it's that there's not enough creative screenwriters. I think there are a lot of creative screenwriters. They just don't always get the chance to show what they've got. Black Bag says, what was New York City with Ken Knapsack like? Visiting the Ghostbusters library, etc. Well, I don't know if you already know this story, Black Bag, but many years ago, I think probably about 10 years ago now, we went to New York Comic-Con for Screen Junkies. And Ken Knapsack, who was our producer at the time, and you know him probably from the Schmodown and a lot of other stuff, had never, ever been to New York before. And I love New York. I've been to New York many times. And I was so excited because we had a free afternoon. And he was like, Dan, show me around New York. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to take Ken around New York. So we were staying in Midtown Manhattan, and I knew he was a big SNL fan, Saturday Night Live. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to walk down here. We're going to walk kind of over toward the Empire State Building. I'll walk him by 30 Rock. I'll walk him by Rockefeller Plaza. And then I'm like, right there is the library from Ghostbusters. And if you've seen that library, it looks exactly like it did in the movie. The lions are there. And I was like, that's such a cool movie location. And I remember the first time I saw it growing up with Ghostbusters as a kid, it was like, oh my gosh, this is I've seen them run down these steps. This is the opening shot is underneath this lion. Like, that was super exciting. So I was like, okay, I'm going to surprise him because he knew we were going to 30 Rock. He knew we were going to walk by Empire State Building. But I'm like, okay, I'm gonna blow his mind right now, and we're gonna go to the Ghostbusters library and turn the corner, and I'll be like, look at that. So we've been walking and talking, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not, it's a surprise. I'm not going to tell you where we're going. And I was not really thinking, because as we turned the corner to the library, it occurred to me, because we talked movies a lot with Ken at the time, that one of the most famous facts about Ken Knapsack is that he had never seen Ghostbusters. So as we turned the corner, I realized this would be, other than seeing a very nice looking library, this was going to be absolutely meaningless for him. So that kind of blew up in my face, because I built it up to be like, oh, Ken, you're going to love this. Oh, this is so cool. And then 5 seconds before we turned the corner, I'm like, oh, wait, he's never seen Ghostbusters. So yes, I'm assuming you might have known that story. But that was a fun story. It was still fun. If you ever have a chance to spend an afternoon walking around New York City with Ken Knapsack, I highly recommend it, because you're going to get a lot of laughs and enjoyment out of that. Plus, as somebody who as somebody who's visited New York City a lot, it's great to sort of see somebody else take all of that in for the first time. Like, I remember when he saw 30 Rock, he was like in awe, because that's where, he was a huge SNL fan, more than me. And he's like, this is where it happened. This is you see the Rainbow Room and all that. And that was a lot of fun. Mandia says, would you consider making an If I Ran video about how you break up the major film studios in order to create more diversity and competition? I mean, I could, but it would just be kind of going back to the way that things were. And I don't think that's ever going to happen. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if my advice would be that creative or interesting. It would just be like, go back to more studios, go back to more competition, go back to when you were pushing each other to be great instead of acquiring each other. But it's been a long time since I did an If I Ran video, so I should probably be looking at ideas for another one. Spencer says, what's a show a lot of people have slept on that's worth starting from start to finish? A show a lot of people have slept on that's worth starting start to finish. Watching start to finish. I feel like the idea of sleeper shows in the era of streaming has gone by the wayside so much. I mean, as I said earlier, I'm a Sorkin fan. So while I acknowledge that it is cheesy and corny and a bit overdramatic, he did a series on ABC called Sports Night that aired almost, I think, at the same time as the first season of West Wing, or like they overlapped by like a season. I like the characters on that show. I think it's a funny show. So if you haven't heard of Sports Night, and if you like Aaron Sorkin, I think it's worth it. And it's not that long of a watch, because it wasn't on TV for very long. ABC just didn't really know what to do with it. So yeah, sports tonight maybe. GC America SS. Are you aware of Critical Drinker? Opinion. Yes, I am aware of Critical Drinker, and he runs a very successful YouTube channel. So good for him. That's my opinion. Freak Stomp 95. How do we get an Alamo Theater near you? Well, that's a great question because they announced an Alamo Theater that was going to be built near me years ago. Like it was supposed to open either this year or last year. And then Alamo hit all of their financial troubles, but there's never been an official update on the project. It's just that we have moved past the announced opening time. And last time I checked, they have not said whether it's delayed or canceled or what, but there was supposed to be an Alamo Draft House opened about half an hour away from me. That has not happened. So I guess you'd have to ask Alamo. Geek Factor says, "Hey Dan, cheers from Poland. Cheers back to you in Poland. Wow, it's late there. On a scale of 1 to 10, how frustrated are you with the flood of inside info like if WB sells guns DCEU is done on social media? I know I should ignore it, but still." There have always been insiders reporting information. Social media certainly accelerated that. What frustrates me is when it is if you want to quote somebody who has a track record, not even necessarily of what they're saying is true, but like a track record of having that kind of access, that's fine. But I think the problem with social media right now is somebody will write, if WB sells guns DCU was done, they won't attribute it to anybody. Or if you look back at the original source report, it's based on nothing. Like I think for a report to be taken seriously in any way, it should at least trace back to something, some news report, some source, somebody who said something. That it's just as it is with regular news. I think now with social media, people will just see something, especially if it's something they agree with. So people that don't like James Gunn, they'll see some BS report that doesn't link back to anything, that has no verifiable factual basis saying that James Gunn is done if Warner Brothers sells. They don't like James Gunn, so they'll spread it far and wide. They won't do the legwork to verify that report or see where it came from. They just see something and they go, aha, that's true. That's of all the things, many things are killing us, and a lot of them originate with the media, but a lot of it originates with us. And one of the things that originates with us is people just running with a report without ever checking where it comes from. The report that I did on Warner Brothers today and Paramount, David Ellison didn't come out and say, I am going to kill HBO Max, but there was a report from an actual verified publication that claims to have sources saying that these were the plans. And that's why even in the title of this video, I said reportedly wants to kill HBO Max. It traces back to something. I didn't just see a tweet that said David Ellison's going to kill HBO Max with no attribution or going back to any particular source. So there is such a thing as inside info. There are people that go out and get scoops. Scoops McGee being one of them. He's been on assignment for several years now. There are people who have verifiable inside information, but there are also a lot of people on Twitter and social media that rely on and value engagement above all else. They don't give two damn cents about any kind of journalistic integrity or like, well, I don't have any sources for this, so I'm really going to get called out if it's proven wrong. They don't care about that because they got your click, they got your like, they got your comment. That makes them money. That's all they care about. It is a moral-free enterprise for a lot of people. That frustrates me when it is obviously unreliable information. Nobody does the legwork to check on it, and it just gets put out there and then taken as if it were real information. So that's the last question I got for today. Let me kind of go through some of these rules just to see. Let's see. Rochester Dance Institute rule: don't ask opinions of other critics in a super chat. Come on, folks, you know what you're doing. I mean, I get it. It's people. The thing that annoys me. I get that people want to know how each of the they want to know, do you like this person? Do you like that person, etc. The thing that really that bothers me is a lot of times it's done, I think, because people either want to find beef between critics or they want to start beef between critics. They want there to be a feud. They want there to be drama. There's so much now, so much of, and particularly from what I've seen in the streaming world, the streamer world, so much of that, the whole driving force of it is drama. And I don't like that. I don't want to be in a feud with anybody. I don't want to, whether I like somebody, whether I don't like somebody, that's a personal preference of mine. If somebody's not coming after me or saying something about me that I don't think is fair or something that's not true, then I don't want to handle it on air. And I'm not going to go out and say, like, I like this person or I don't like this person, especially I don't like, if I don't like somebody, nobody needs to know that. And when you ask me about Critical Drinker, I think it's very admirable, the size and following that he's built. That's great. That's all. That's what I want to share with my opinion about him. People want to always, if they can't find stuff, they want to start stuff. And I'm not saying that that's what was happening with that question, but that is the rule. That is the kind of that's the goal for a lot of people, is they want to ask a question that'll then provoke a response. They'll go to that other person and say, this person said that about you. That'll provoke them to say something. And they'll go back to somebody and say, that person said this about you in response to that. There are some creators and streamers that thrive on that. I have no time for that junk. I'm 42 years old. I left that behind in high school. So again, I'm not saying there was an attempt there, but if that's what you're looking for or trying to get, it's not going to happen. I am too old and I have too many other things to do in my life than get into any of that kind of stuff. It's just no, thank you. Not a fan. The Viking Bear says House of the Dragon will be a Paramount Plus original. Technically, yeah. If they do that. Dadboy22, only problem with HBO Max is they keep reviewing and removing their classic animated shows. I agree. That's what HBO Max is not perfect. I will say that HBO Max is not perfect, but I think it is one of the better or best streaming services. Turkey Poke, Dan needs some stooges. I've always wished that I could. I'm not necessarily saying I would want to be amoral like an old gangster, but I've always thought it'd be cool to have a stooge or two. I don't know. I wonder what it was like having stooges. I don't know. Rochester produces. I visited the New York Public Library yesterday. Didn't know they restricted entry to that reading room nowadays. Just missed the tour. I get why they would feel like they have to restrict entry, because there'd be a lot of looky-loos. And I would imagine as a library, they would like for people to be able to do library things in there and not just have people going on the table and banging books and all the stuff that they did in the movie. So let's see. Lord of the Rings is a Christmas movie because they came out on Christmas, and I've watched them on Christmas Day every year since I saw them in theaters. A lot of people do that on over the holidays, over the Christmas holiday specifically. Let's see if there's one more I can grab here. Let's see. Freddie Marino says sweet potato pie is way better. I will agree. I like both sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie. Oftentimes at Thanksgiving, if both options are there, then I will take both because everybody knows that the rules don't apply on Thanksgiving. Calorically, there are no caloric nutritional rules on Thanksgiving. It doesn't count. It's just how it works. All right, 2 more questions, and then we're going to get out of here because we've been here for an hour. That came in while I was looking at that. Jason Webster says, to make a great or good film, it is crucial for a director to have a great relationship with the DP, editor, and screenwriter. There needs to be synergy and constant two-way communication between them. I agree. A lot of times, the screenwriter gets cut out of the process, and I don't think that's the way it should be. I don't think they should necessarily try to dictate the director's job or how the movie should look. But I think that the screenwriter should always be consulted on intention, motivation, and yeah, the director, photography, and editor. I feel like they should be there constantly. And if an editor can be present on set, I think that's always a good thing. I'm not saying maybe every day, but I also love when an editor can cut things together as the movie is shooting. I think it's good for an editor to be available during production to start editing the movie as it's being shot, because I think then you can address things during the shoot that maybe you wouldn't catch. That's not always possible, especially considering how hands-on a director likes to be in the editing room or what the availability of your editor is. But I think the editor should be a constant resource while shooting. Obviously, there's got to be a great relationship with the director and director of photography. And I think the screenwriter should also be a big part of the process. And David Calhoun says, this will be our last question today. What should the next Muppet movie be? Ooh, see, I'm a fan of the Muppets. I enjoy the Muppets, and it's been a minute since we had a Muppet movie. I like the Muppets when they take on a classic story, Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island. I mean, the original Muppet movies are good too, but I feel like we get mostly, or have gotten theatrically, mostly original Muppet movies. So I want another Muppet adaptation. What would work though? I mean, if you could get it done, I would love for Wuthering Heights, the Margot Robbie Frankenstein. His name's not Frankenstein. Jacob Elordi movie. I would love to get Muppet Wuthering Heights in theaters to compete directly with Wuthering Heights, but that's not going to happen. I think even with Muppets, I don't think you can get it done that much. I think you need to get like a good classic, something it's got to have a big and a lot of people in it, like enough roles. I mean, my favorite book's Catch-22. So personally, I would love to see a Muppet Catch-22 with like Kermit as Yossarian. And Fozzie Bear is Major, but you've got to have a family audience. Nobody's going to go see Muppet Catch-22. It's just not going to happen. The cast is there. The characters are there. The Catch-22 would be an amazing movie for the Muppets. I would love to see that, but I'm not going to say that's what the next one should be because it would make $8 at the box office, and that would be my $8. Nobody else would go see Muppet Catch-22. I think you got to go a little bit more classical, like Moby Dick, a little too serious. There's not enough people in that book. Muppet Three Musketeers. That could be fun. Muppet Three Musketeers, Fozzie, Kermit, Gonzo, and there's actually four Musketeers. You got to have the fourth Musketeer. So D'Artagnan could be. See, Swedish Chef is not a lead. I love Swedish Chef. He's a supporting character. So yeah, I'd say Fozzie Bear, Kermit, Gonzo, and let's go with Skeeter, maybe? Scooter. Which one's Scooter and which one's Skeeter? Skeeter. I think I don't know. I don't know though. I don't know. This is going to be the longest answer to any question this week, and me trying to figure out who the fourth Muppet in the Muppet Three Musketeers movie should be. Let's see. Muppet Nosferatu, Bram Stoker's Mopula. You know what? Actually, I think we've got the answer here. This is great. I want to give credit to Silver Scale. I agree. Jason Segel. Perfect choice. He was great in the Muppets. In the Muppets movie back in 2012, and I think the Muppets are also often good when they interact with people. That's perfect. See, better than any Muppet I could have come up with. Jason Segel. That's the force. So Kermit, Fozzie Bear, Gonzo, Jason Segel, Three Musketeers. Boom. Put it in the books. That would be great. Yep. There we go. See, sometimes you guys answer the questions better than any than I can. Okay, one last question, I promise, because it just came in. We're not going to do any more questions after this. So if you haven't sent your question in, please hold it for next week's show. Clay says, I finished watching Chainsaw Man, then saw the movie today, all in one, off your recommendation. Loved it. Just saying thanks. That is Clay. First of all, what a day to watch that entire first season and then see the movie all in one go. That's incredible. I also enjoyed it. And that is, and I've said this many times, that is my favorite thing to hear when somebody says, hey, I saw you talk about this or review this, and I went to see this, the thing, because you said that I should, and I loved it, or it's become one of my favorite things. That is what I like to hear, because that I feel, for me, that makes me feel the most satisfied with my job and what I do. Because for me, when I was growing up, critics like Roger Ebert and everything, what makes me love them is that I would hear about a movie from them or read a review from them, and then I would go see that movie and I would love it. And I would think to myself, oh, wow, I'm so glad I read that review because I would never have seen that movie. And so when I hear that from somebody, that I was able to kind of fill that function for them. That I'm not saying that puts me on the same tier at all as somebody like Roger Ebert, but it makes me feel good about what I do because I'm able to fill that same role. So thank you, Clay. I'm glad you liked it. I also enjoyed all the Chainsaw Man stuff that I've seen. And thank you for trusting me enough to decide you're going to devote a whole day and some money and some time to it. I'm very happy. That's a good way to end the show. Go out on a high. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Be sure to stay tuned here. I think, unless my plans go awry tomorrow, I think on Friday or maybe Saturday, I'm going to have a review of Bugonia, which is the new movie from Yorgos Lanthimos on the channel. It's actually expanding to a theater somewhat near me. So I'm going to try to see that, bring you a review here on the channel. And then we are getting closer and closer to awards season. So I'm going to start baking up some awards previews and stuff like that. We're getting closer to the holiday movie season and all the fun stuff. And of course, box office and everything else we do. And the live show, I try to do it every week. If I can't, I'll always try to do a community post saying why I can't. But as of right now, I don't see why I couldn't do it next week unless a screening or something comes up. I'll keep you updated. Otherwise, I'll see you right back here next week. Thanks to everybody who sent in their questions. Some great questions this week. And thanks to everybody who spent an hour watching me yammer on about all this stuff. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.